Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are tackling something, well, the scale is just mind-boggling. India's need for cooling. It's driven by rising heat, rapid urbanization, and this demand for air conditioning isn't just growing, it's exploding. ACs are shifting from being, a luxury item to really a fundamental necessity, faster there than almost anywhere else. We're looking at some fantastic analysis today, mainly from CEEW, that's the Council on Energy, Environment, and Water, working with Rama. And they really paint a picture of this unprecedented need. Just for context, the official India Cooling Action Plan, ICCAP-APIA, they project cooling demand will jump 11-fold.
11.
Over just 2 decades. That pushes AC penetration from maybe 8% now or recently up towards 40%.
Huge jump.
Which means, and this is the kicker, we're talking about nearly 500 million additional AC units.
Yeah.
So here's our mission for you, the listener, today. With this kind of massive accelerating growth, how many skilled technicians does India actually need? How do we make sure this growth is sustainable, climate resilient?
That 500 million figure, it's the perfect place to start because right away you see the climate stakes. This is way bigger than just comfort.
Right.
It's about emissions, primary and secondary on a really global level.
Okay.
Think about the power needed, that huge expansion. Sources estimate India needs close to 600 gigawatts of additional power generation capacity by 2050.
Wow.
Just to run the ACs. Imagine the infrastructure required for that kind of lift.
600 gigawatts.
Yeah.
Additional. That's massive. And that's just the energy side, right?
Precisely.
Yeah.
That's the primary emission issue. But then there's the secondary concern. Often gets less focus, but maybe more critical for near-term climate impact.
The refrigerants themselves?
Exactly. Many of these chemicals have a really high global warming potential, GWP.
Yeah.
They leak, they cause warming, and this is where the service sector becomes just crucial. Absolutely pivotal. ICCAP acknowledges this too.
How so?
Well, poor servicing is bad in 2 ways. First, bad maintenance can slash an AC's efficiency by up to 50%.
50, wow. So
Yeah.
it just guzzles power.
Right. More power, more primary emissions. Second, and this is key, the servicing sector. It's responsible for up to 40% of India's annual refrigerant demand.
40% just from servicing leaks and top-ups.
Yeah, mostly leaks during servicing or due to poor installation. If technicians aren't trained properly on handling, especially recovery, those high GWP gases just puff straight into the atmosphere.
It's okay.
So sustainable growth versus, a potential climate disaster, it really rests on the skills of these service technicians.
Okay, that link is crystal clear now. A poorly serviced AC in one city connects directly to global emissions targets. So let's get to the numbers. The human capital needed, because the growth in AC stock itself is, well, it's breathtaking.
It really is.
Where were we starting from? About 66 million room AC units in India, right? That was 2022-23.
Roughly, yeah.
But by 2036-37, projection hits around 345 million. And then fast forward another decade, 2046-47, the forecast is nearly 1 billion AC units. 956 million. It's hard to even visualize that.
It is. And that stock growth, it directly maps to the demand for skilled people. And we're not just talking installers here.
Right.
We mean technicians skilled in installation, yes, but also regular maintenance, complex repairs, safe refrigerant handling, the whole life cycle.
So what are the numbers on the technician side?
Okay, so today, the estimated need is about 0.37 million technicians. 0.37.
Okay.
But tracking that exploding AC stock, by 2036-37, we'll need approximately 2 million technicians.
2 million. That's a huge leap already.
It is. And then by 2046-47, India is looking at needing about 5.6 million skilled technicians.
5.6 million. That's what, a 15-fold increase?
Yeah.
In just over 2 decades.
15-fold within basically a single generation. The scale is just enormous.
Okay, 5.5 million. When you see a number that big, my first thought is, how? How did the analysts even calculate that? Especially when, as you said, the service sector is so informal. Data must be scarce.
Yeah, that's actually one of the most interesting parts of this analysis, the methodology. Because you're right, reliable data is almost impossible to find. Government records, industry data, it's patchy.
So what do?
The CD-RAMA analysts, they use what they called a first principles approach, which sounds technical, but it's brilliant, really.
All right.
They basically ignored the historical data black hole and built the estimate from the ground up, like from the technician's actual work day.
Ah, okay. So how does that work? What does first principles look like for a service technician?
It means they looked really closely at productivity, like microanalyzed it. They broke down every task, timing thing.
Seriously, like with a stopwatch.
Almost. They figured out, for instance, that a full wet servicing job on a typical split AC takes about 75 minutes.
Okay.
Installing a new split unit, that's longer, maybe 180 minutes, 3 hours.
Right.
Then they factored in an average working day, say 11 hours plus travel time between jobs, maybe 30 minutes per job.
Okay, so they built a model of a technician's day.
Exactly. And that detailed breakdown allowed them to calculate maximum capacity. In that typical day, a tech can install, say, no more than 2 new split units.
Right, because it takes 3 hours each plus travel.
But they could service maybe up to 6 units in that same day, because servicing is faster.
Got it.
And by defining productivity that precisely, they could then take the projected stock, that huge 956 million AC number, and translate it directly into labor demand. That's how they got to the 5.6 million technicians.
That is, yeah, that's genuinely an aha moment. They bypassed the bad data problem by mapping the physics of the work itself. Really smart.
It's a fantastic piece of analysis. But okay, now we know the scale of the workforce needed. We have to pivot to the quality. Because just having bodies isn't enough, right? They need to be skilled.
And that's where the challenges really start.
That's where the major hurdles are, yeah. The sources point out that nearly 40% of the current HVAC workforce, they haven't had any formal training at all.
40%. Wow. So learning purely on the job.
Pretty much. Which might be okay for some basic stuff, but for handling new refrigerants safely or understanding high-efficiency systems, not ideal.
And what about the ones who did get some training?
That's almost more worrying. Over half, 57% of technicians surveyed said their last training was over 5 years ago.
5 years.
Yeah.
In this field, tech changes so fast. Efficiency standards, refrigerants, 5 years is ancient history.
It's an eternity. Which leads directly to this big problem, a massive curriculum market mismatch.
Meaning what the training institutes teach isn't what the market needs.
Exactly. Most grads coming out of the industrial training institutes, the ITIs,
Yeah.
employers say they're just not ready for modern AC systems.
Really?
Yeah, the OEMs, the big brands, the sales and service dealers, they report new hires often need up to 6 months more on-the-job training just to work independently.
6 months. That's a huge drag, a massive bottleneck if you need to scale up fast. Why such a big gap?
It seems to boil down to, well, outdated curricula. They aren't keeping up with the latest high-efficiency tech. And crucially, they often don't cover the proper handling of the newer low GWP refrigerants like R32.
Ah, so if a technician doesn't know how to handle the new gases safely and legally.
Then the training they got is basically useless for climate goals, and they immediately become an environmental risk.
Okay, so we need 5.6 million technicians. The current pipeline produces graduates who need 6 more months of training. Fixing this, it's going to cost a lot, isn't it?
Yeah. Serious, proactive investment is needed. A budget line item, essentially. The sources actually calculated the cost. They based it on existing government skilling programs, mainly under the PMKVY scheme.
PMPVY. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yowana.
Right.
What kinds of programs did they factor in?
They looked at 2 main types. First is short-term training, STT. That's a longer one, maybe 200 hours. It's for new people entering the workforce, learning from scratch.
Okay, foundational training.
Right. Second is recognition of prior learning, or RPL. This is shorter, minimum 80 hours orientation. It's designed for the huge pool of existing technicians who have experience but maybe no formal training or need updating.
So upskilling the current workforce.
Exactly, getting them current on new tech, standards, refrigerants.
And the total cost.
Yeah.
What's the price tag for skilling up potentially millions of people?
The estimate is around INR 2,200 crore. That's 22 billion rupees needed by 2037.
Okay. Significant, but maybe manageable over 15 years or so.
But remember, the big workforce number, 5.6 million, is for 2047. Looking out to then, the total skilling cost jumps dramatically to around INR 14,250 crore.
14,000 crore. Okay, that's a huge number. That really puts the financial challenge into perspective, needs sustained commitment over decades.
Absolutely.
So the path forward seems clear. We have to formalize this workforce, make sure technicians are actually ready. And the key seems to be some kind of mandatory unified certification, right?
That's the core recommendation, yes. Certification does a few things. It boosts the technician's own professional credibility, opens up career paths. That's a good incentive.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it's the mechanism for compliance, especially with international agreements like the Kigali Amendment. That requires phasing down high GWP HFCs globally.
And you can't phase down HFCs if the people handling them aren't trained and accountable. Makes sense. Is this standard practice elsewhere? Mandatory certification?
It really is the global norm for developed countries. In the U.S., the EPA mandates Section 608 certification for anyone handling refrigerants, period.
Right.
In Europe, you've got the F-gas regulations, again, mandatory certification to limit emissions from heating and cooling systems, which begs the question, if the goal is climate compliance, why isn't certification mandatory for these critical tasks in India yet?
And the current system.
Mm-hmm.
The sources say the existing certificates, like from the Electronic Sector Skill Council, the RPL one, it's often more proof of just attending the program.
Yeah, sometimes it's seen more as participation rather than a rigorous assessment of high-level competence.
And critically, it's not mandatory to even carry it, let alone have it, for most service jobs.
Correct, which limits its effectiveness as an enforcement tool.
So the experts lay out a roadmap to fix this, moving beyond voluntary to mandatory. What's step one?
Step one has to be fixing that curriculum market mismatch we talked about. The OEMs, the big AC manufacturers, they need to be in the room.
How so?
They need to actively co-develop the training curricula with the ITIs and other training providers. Stop just complaining about graduates being unprepared and help make them prepared.
So industry ensures the training is relevant and helps with placements too, presumably.
Exactly. Ensure job readiness, facilitate placements, it aligns incentives.
Makes sense. What about the skills themselves? Anything beyond the technical?
Yes, definitely. The roadmap stresses broadening the definition of skill. It's not just about the technical side, the tools and refrigerants. Training needs to include crucial entrepreneurial skills and soft skills, communication, customer interaction, that sort of thing.
Ah, interesting. Why is that so important?
Well, it's not just nice to have. The technicians themselves reported this. Those soft skills directly impact their customer base, their patronage, and therefore their income.
Really?
Yeah. A technically brilliant technician who can't communicate well or manage a customer relationship. They can lose business to someone who maybe isn't quite as technically perfect but is better with people. It's a direct financial link.
So better soft skills training means better income potential for the techs. That's a powerful motivator.
It is. And the final piece, the real enforcement.
It'd have to be the mandatory part, right?
Legal teeth. The government needs to mandate that only certified technicians can perform specific, high-risk, high-impact tasks.
Like what specifically?
Definitely refrigerant handling, anything involving opening the refrigerant circuit, and probably installation and commissioning of the newer high-efficiency systems that are key to meeting energy goals.
Got it. So you restrict the most critical jobs to certified pros.
That's the only way to really drive professionalization across such a huge informal sector fast enough to meet that 2047 deadline.
Okay.
So if we synthesize this whole deep dive, the main takeaway is pretty stark. India's absolutely necessary move towards climate-resilient cooling, it could get completely derailed.
Derailed how?
If the planning and, crucially, the budgeting for this 5.6 million strong skilled workforce isn't prioritized and acted on, like right now, we're moving too fast for the market to just sort it out organically.
Okay, that's a clear warning. Now let's bring this back home, back to you, the listener, the person who actually uses an AC. One of the biggest hurdles mentioned for adopting good servicing practices, GSPs, is simple consumer behavior. We tend to want the lowest possible price for servicing.
Right. And if the customer always picks the absolute cheapest quote, well, the technician has zero incentive to invest, do they?
Invest in what?
In the proper training, which costs time and money. In the up-to-date tools. In the refrigerant recovery equipment, which is expensive, but essential for preventing leaks. Why bother if the customer only cares about the bottom line?
So cheap services, quite literally, costing us the climate.
In many ways, yes. It undermines the whole push for quality and sustainability.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to consider. What if you, the AC user, started seeing your role in this? What if you actively demanded good servicing practices?
Maybe even committed to what the CEEW methodology recommends, regular preventive maintenance. Getting your unit serviced properly, say, twice a year.
If enough consumers did that.
That awareness, that demand from the customer side, it becomes the key market signal. It creates demand for quality.
Which means better incomes for the properly trained technicians.
Exactly. Which then reinforces the value of getting certified and organically helps enforce those standards we need.
It creates a kind of virtuous cycle.
A really powerful one, driven by informed consumer choice, benefiting the technicians, the economy, and critically the global climate effort. Your choice matters.